May Day rallies demand economic justice and workers' rights. The world is facing a significant challenge in addressing the economic and social fallout of the COVID-19 pandemic. The pandemic has caused widespread job losses, economic uncertainty, and social unrest. As the world continues to grapple with the pandemic, workers have taken to the streets in various cities to demand better working conditions and economic justice. The May Day rallies that took place on May 1, 2023, saw workers from different parts of the world come together to demand better working conditions and fair wages. The May Day rallies were marked by people from different walks of life demanding that their governments prioritize economic justice. In France, for instance, thousands of workers marched against President Emmanuel Macron's move to raise the retirement age from 62 to 64. The protests have been ongoing for months, with unions arguing that this move threatens hard-fought worker rights, while the government maintains that it is economically necessary as the population ages. The protests were largely peaceful, with some incidents of property damage leading to police detaining 22 people in Paris and dispersing protesters in Lyon with tear gas. In Spain, over 70 marches were held, with powerful unions warning of social conflict if low salaries compared to the EU average do not rise in line with inflation. Workers also demanded incentives to move Spain to a 4-day working week, with blue-collar workers leading the protests. However, white-collar professionals also made demands in a country that still bears the scars of previous recessions, where the working day is traditionally long. The illustrious College of Lawyers of Madrid urged reforms of historic laws requiring them to be on call 365 days of the year, regardless of the death of family members or medical emergencies. In South Korea, tens of thousands of people attended various rallies, demanding higher wages and reduced working hours. They also criticized the government's handling of the pandemic and its plan to double the defense budget. The rally marked the biggest May Day gathering in the country since the pandemic began in early 2020. Workers also demanded that the government create more jobs and support small businesses. The May Day rallies in Germany kicked off with a Take Back the Night rally organized by feminist and queer groups to protest against violence directed at women and LGBTQ+ people. Several thousand people took part in the largely peaceful march, which was occasionally met with clashes between participants and police. Numerous further rallies by labor unions and leftist groups were planned for May Day. The rallies in Germany highlighted the need to address systemic violence and discrimination, particularly against marginalized groups. In Taiwan, thousands of workers protested against what they call the inadequacies of the self-ruled island's labor policies, putting pressure on the ruling party before the 2024 presidential election. Gathering in the capital, Taipei, medical workers wearing protective gear held placards with messages calling for subsidies, while others held banners criticizing President Tsai Ing-wen's labor policies. The workers demanded better pay and working conditions and called on the government to prioritize their needs. In Indonesia, people demanded that the government repeal a job creation law that they argue would benefit businesses at the expense of workers and the environment. The law has been a contentious issue, with critics arguing that it undermines labor rights and environmental protections. The rallies in Indonesia underscored the need to ensure that economic policies prioritize workers and the environment. The rallies in different parts of the world have highlighted the need to prioritize economic justice and fair wages. Workers have expressed their frustrations with the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic on their lives and demanded that governments address their concerns. The pandemic has exposed the vulnerabilities of workers in different sectors, particularly those in low-paying jobs. The pandemic has also underscored the importance of prioritizing essential workers who have been on the front lines of the pandemic. The rallies have also highlighted the need to address systemic issues such as discrimination, violence, and environmental degradation. The rallies in Germany, for instance, demonstrated the need to address violence against women and LGBTQ+ people. The rallies in Lebanon, where the country is facing a crippling economic crisis and spiraling inflation, underscored the need to address poverty and economic inequality. The rallies in Indonesia highlighted the need to protect the environment and ensure that economic policies do not come at the expense of workers and the environment. The COVID-19 pandemic has highlighted the importance of investing in public health, social welfare, and workers' rights. The pandemic has exposed the vulnerabilities of workers in different sectors, particularly those in low-paying jobs. The pandemic has also demonstrated the need to prioritize essential workers who have been on the front lines of the pandemic. The rallies have shown that workers are not willing to accept the status quo and demand that their governments prioritize their needs. The rallies have also shown that workers can come together to demand change, despite facing challenges such as government crackdowns and security concerns. The rallies in Turkey, for instance, were met with police intervention, with authorities preventing demonstrators from reaching Istanbul's main square, Taksim, and detaining around a dozen protesters. However, small groups were allowed to lay wreaths at a monument there. In Pakistan, authorities banned rallies in some cities due to a tense security situation or political atmosphere. However, labor organizations and trade unions held indoor events, demanding better workers' rights amid high inflation. The rallies have also demonstrated the need for international solidarity and cooperation in addressing workers' rights and economic justice. Workers from different parts of the world have come together to demand change, highlighting the need for a global response to economic inequality and workers' rights. The rallies have also shown the power of social movements and the importance of collective action in effecting change. In conclusion, the May Day rallies that took place on May 1, 2023, have demonstrated the need to prioritize economic justice and fair wages. The rallies have shown that workers are not willing to accept the status quo and demand that their governments prioritize their needs. The rallies have also highlighted the need to address systemic issues such as discrimination, violence, and environmental degradation. The COVID-19 pandemic has exposed the vulnerabilities of workers in different sectors and underscored the importance of investing in public health, social welfare, and workers' rights. The rallies have demonstrated the power of social movements and the importance of collective action in effecting change. The rallies have also shown the need for international solidarity and cooperation in addressing workers' rights and economic justice.